Right now in the United States of America, there is a state where it's technically illegal to fall asleep in a cheese factory. There's a city where eating fried chicken with a fork could get you arrested. And in one state, if a donkey falls asleep in your bathtub, you've just broken the law. These aren't jokes. These are real laws, still on the books, still technically enforceable. And honestly, we haven't even gotten to the strange ones yet. Before we dive in, if you're the kind of person who loves discovering bizarre facts about the United States that most people have no idea about, you're going to love this channel. We drop videos like this every single week. So do yourself a favor. Hit that subscribe button right now and turn on notifications so you never miss one. Trust me, by the end of this video, you're going to be glad you did. Because some of these laws are so unbelievable, you're going to want to pause the video just to tell someone about them. Now let's get into it. The American legal system is one of the most complex in the entire world. There are over 300,000 federal regulations, millions of state laws, and countless local ordinances scattered across 50 states. And buried deep inside all of that legal code are some absolute gems. Laws so bizarre, so oddly specific, and so hilariously outdated that you have to wonder what on earth happened to make someone sit down and write them into existence. Some of these laws made sense 100 years ago. Some were reactions to very specific incidents that we can only imagine. And some, honestly, nobody alive can explain them. Today, we're counting down 20 of the weirdest, most unbelievable laws that are still technically active somewhere in America right now. We're going from strange to absolutely mind-blowing. And let me tell you this right now, number 2 on this list involves something so common, something that millions of Americans do every single day, and in one state doing it the wrong way is a genuine legal offense. That one is going to shock you. But number one made our entire research team stop and stare at the screen in disbelief. It involves something that is literally impossible to enforce, and yet it is written into law. We'll get there. Let's start the countdown. Number 20, it's illegal to sing off-key in North Carolina. Starting things off in North Carolina, where the law has opinions about your vocal abilities. In this state, it is technically against the law to sing off-key in public. If your singing is deemed off-pitch and it disturbs the peace, you are violating a local noise ordinance that has been on the books for over a century. This law dates back to the early 1900s when small-town noise disturbance laws were taken incredibly seriously. The original intent was almost certainly aimed at rowdy, drunk individuals making a racket late at night. But because of how broadly the law was written, it technically applies to anyone singing out of tune at any time in any public space. So imagine walking through downtown Charlotte, humming your favorite tune, slightly off-key because, let's be honest, most of us are not professional singers. Technically, a police officer could approach you and cite your performance. Has it been enforced recently? Almost certainly not. But is it still there, waiting patiently in the legal code? Absolutely. If you can't sing in North Carolina, wait until you hear what you can't eat in Georgia. Next up, a law about fried chicken that is absolutely real. Number 19, it's illegal to eat fried chicken with a fork in Gainesville, Georgia. Gainesville, Georgia proudly calls itself the poultry capital of the world. They produce more chicken than almost anywhere on Earth. And they take that title so seriously that in 1961, the city council passed an actual ordinance making it illegal to eat fried chicken with anything other than your bare hands. No forks, no knives, no chopsticks. You pick up that drumstick with your hands or you're breaking the law. The ordinance was originally created as a publicity stunt to draw attention to the city's poultry industry, and it worked brilliantly. National newspapers picked up the story. Gainesville became famous overnight. But here's the thing, they never repealed it. It's still technically active. In 2009, a 91-year-old woman named Ginian Combs was actually arrested at a local event for eating fried chicken with a fork. Don't worry, it was staged by local police as a celebration of the law's existence. But the fact that the city leaned into it and made it a whole event tells you everything about Gainesville's relationship with its chicken. You must use your hands, that's not a recommendation. In Gainesville, that's the law. All right, we're moving from food to fashion. Actually, wait, not fashion, fake mustaches, specifically fake mustaches in church. Number 18. It's illegal to wear a fake mustache in church if it causes laughter in Alabama. Alabama takes its church services very seriously. So seriously, in fact, that it is technically illegal to wear a fake mustache inside a church if that fake mustache causes laughter among the congregation. Now pay attention to the wording here. The fake mustache itself isn't the crime. Wearing it in church isn't even the crime. It only becomes illegal if the mustache causes laughter. So technically, if you wore the most ridiculous handlebar mustache in the world into a Sunday service and nobody laughed, you'd be completely fine. But the moment someone cracks a smile, criminal. This law was clearly aimed at preventing disruptions during worship. But the specificity is what kills me, not funny hats, not whoopee cushions, not rubber chickens. The Alabama legislature specifically singled out fake mustaches as the instrument of disruption that needed to be legally addressed. Someone at some point in Alabama history wore a fake mustache in church, caused a scene, and a legislator decided this must never happen again. That's beautiful. And Alabama is going to show up again on this list. Trust me, they had a lot going on, but first let's head to a state that had strong opinions about what you carry in your pockets. Number 17. It's illegal to carry an ice cream cone in your back pocket in Alabama. Alabama again already. In the state of Alabama, it is against the law to carry an ice cream cone in your back pocket, not your front pocket, not your hand, specifically your back pocket. This sounds absolutely insane until you learn the history. In the 1800s, horse theft was one of the most serious crimes in America. In some places, it was punishable by hanging. Horses were everything: transportation, labor, survival. And someone figured out a loophole. Horses love sweet things. If you stuffed something sweet like an ice cream cone into your back pocket and casually walked past someone's horse, the horse would follow you. You weren't technically stealing the horse. The horse was technically following you on its own. It was voluntary on the horse's part. Alabama saw through this trick and passed a law specifically banning the carrying of ice cream cones in back pockets to close the loophole. The horse theft problem has obviously been solved by cars, but the law, still right there in the code, untouched. From Alabama, let's head to the desert, because Arizona has a law involving a bathtub, a donkey, and a flood that sounds like the setup to a joke but is absolutely real. Number 16. It's illegal to let a donkey sleep in a bathtub in Arizona. In Arizona, it is against the law to allow a donkey to sleep in a bathtub. The donkey can stand in the bathtub, it can sit, it can eat. But the moment that donkey closes its eyes and falls asleep inside a bathtub, someone has broken the law. And the story behind this is genuinely incredible. In 1924, in the small town of Kingman, Arizona, a local rancher had an old abandoned bathtub sitting in his yard. His donkey discovered the tub and decided it was the perfect bed. Every night, the donkey would climb in and fall asleep. One day, a massive flash flood swept through the area. The floodwaters picked up the bathtub, donkey and all, and carried them miles downstream into the town basin. The donkey survived, but the rescue operation was so expensive and so chaotic that the town council held an emergency meeting and passed a law saying this would never happen again. They didn't ban outdoor bathtubs, they didn't ban donkeys near water. They specifically banned donkeys from sleeping in bathtubs because apparently a donkey standing in a bathtub was considered an acceptable level of risk. It was only the sleeping part that caused the problem. One donkey, one flood, one bathtub, and a law that has survived for exactly 100 years. We're only at number 16 and the laws are already this wild. But next up, we're going to Alaska, where the law has very specific rules about personal space, specifically your proximity to a moose hunter's ear. Number 15. It's illegal to whisper in someone's ear while they're moose hunting in Alaska. In Alaska, there is a law that specifically prohibits whispering in someone's ear while they are engaged in moose hunting. Not shouting, not tapping their shoulder, whispering in their ear, specifically during moose hunting. That combination of conditions is what makes this law so beautifully bizarre. The safety logic actually tracks. Moose hunting involves firearms and extremely large, dangerous animals. A startled hunter could misfire, react violently, or injure themselves or others. You probably shouldn't sneak up on someone holding a loaded rifle. But the law doesn't ban all forms of communication near hunters. It specifically targets whispering in the ear, which implies a level of physical closeness and intimacy that raises more questions than it answers. Who was doing this? Was this a common problem in the Alaskan wilderness? Were people routinely creeping up to armed moose hunters and whispering things to them? What were they whispering? "Hey, nice moose, boom, you've just committed a crime in Alaska." If that image made you laugh, wait until you hear what Ohio has to say about fish and alcohol. That's coming up, but first let's talk about what Connecticut decided about bathing. Number 14, it's illegal to take a bath on Sundays in Connecticut. Connecticut, one of the original 13 colonies, has an old law still on the books that prohibits bathing on Sundays. This dates back to the Puritan era when Connecticut was essentially a theocracy with incredibly rigid rules about Sunday behavior. Sundays were exclusively for rest and worship. Working was prohibited. Entertainment was banned, and bathing was apparently considered either too indulgent or too much of a labor to be permitted on the Lord's Day. So every single person in Connecticut who has ever showered on a Sunday morning before church has technically committed a crime. A clean crime, but a crime nonetheless. These old Sunday laws, called blue laws, regulated everything from shopping to recreation to personal hygiene. Most have been functionally abandoned, but they remain embedded in the legal code because no one has ever bothered to formally repeal them. From bathing bans to hunting regulations, American law covers everything. But next up, a law from Cleveland, Ohio, that is going to make you look at mouse traps in a completely new way. Number 13, you need a hunting license to set a mousetrap in Cleveland, Ohio. In Cleveland, Ohio, if you want to set a mousetrap in your own kitchen to catch a mouse that's been eating your cereal, you technically need a hunting license. The city ordinance classifies the act of trapping any animal regardless of its size as a form of hunting, and hunting requires a license. Therefore, setting a mousetrap in your house is hunting. Hunting requires a license. No license, no mousetrap. Nobody in modern Cleveland has ever been cited for unlicensed mousetrap deployment. But technically, every person who has ever snapped a mouse in a trap without proper documentation is an unlicensed hunter in the eyes of Cleveland law. The ordinance was simply written too broadly. Nobody thought to add an exception for household pest control, and now, decades later, it remains one of the most perfectly absurd laws in America. We're about to cross into the top 10, and I want to tease something. Number 7 on this list involves a law about a specific body part, and number 2 involves something you probably did this morning. We're getting there, let's keep going. Number 12, it's illegal to tie a giraffe to a telephone pole in Atlanta, Georgia. In Atlanta, Georgia, there is a city ordinance that makes it illegal to tie a giraffe to a telephone pole or a street lamp. Not a horse, not a dog, a giraffe specifically. Most historians believe this stems from old animal control ordinances related to traveling circuses that passed through Atlanta in the late 1800s and early 1900s. Circus animals needed to be tied up somewhere, and apparently giraffes tied to telephone poles were causing problems. Whether it was the height of the giraffe pulling down wires or the spectacle of a giraffe on Main Street causing traffic chaos, the city said enough. But the law specifically names giraffes, which means at some point, someone in Atlanta's city council looked at the situation and decided that horses tied to poles were fine, elephants could be managed, but giraffes specifically needed their own regulation. Just imagine the city council meeting. Gentlemen, we have a giraffe problem. Number 11, it's illegal to sleep on top of a refrigerator outdoors in Pennsylvania. Pennsylvania has a law that prohibits sleeping on top of a refrigerator outdoors, not indoors, outdoors specifically. If you drag your fridge into your living room and sleep on top of it, you're fine, but the moment you take that nap on a refrigerator in your backyard, you've crossed a legal line. This law is most likely tied to mid-20th century appliance safety regulations. Discarded refrigerators were genuinely dangerous. Old models had latching mechanisms that couldn't be opened from the inside, and there were tragic cases of children climbing into abandoned fridges and becoming trapped. The broader safety laws addressed how refrigerators could be stored outdoors, and somewhere in the legislative process, a provision about sleeping on them ended up in the code. The mental image alone is worth it. A police officer approaching someone dozing on a fridge in their backyard. Sir, I'm going to need you to step down from the appliance. We're in the top 10 now, and every single law from here gets more unbelievable, starting with something Texas decided about your own body parts. Number 10, it's illegal to sell your own eyeballs in Texas. In the great state of Texas, where freedom is a way of life, where you can openly carry firearms in most public places, and where personal liberty is practically sacred, there is one thing you absolutely cannot do. You cannot sell your own eyeballs. Texas has a specific legal provision addressing the commercial sale of human eyeballs, not organs in general, eyeballs specifically. The law says no. Most states have broad laws against organ sales under the National Organ Transplant Act of 1984, but Texas felt the need to call out eyeballs by name, which strongly implies that at some point in Texas history there was either an attempted eyeball transaction or enough concern about potential eyeball commerce that the legislature stepped in. Guns go ahead, eyeball sales, that's where Texas draws the line. Next up, Alabama is back again, and this time it involves something you do every single day behind the wheel. Number 9, it's illegal to drive blindfolded in Alabama. Alabama is back on the list yet again, and honestly at this point I'm not even surprised. In the state of Alabama, there is a specific law that makes it illegal to drive a motor vehicle while wearing a blindfold, not just impaired driving, not just distracted driving, specifically blindfolded driving. Someone felt the need to write this into law as its own separate provision. Now on one hand, obviously you shouldn't drive blindfolded. That seems like something that shouldn't need its own law. Common sense should cover it. Existing reckless driving and endangerment laws should handle it. But Alabama apparently looked at their legal code and said, you know what, we need to specifically mention blindfolds. Which raises the obvious question, what happened? Who was driving blindfolded in Alabama frequently enough that the state legislature convened and decided this needed to be explicitly addressed? Was it a dare, a bet, some kind of bizarre local tradition? The law is real, it's still on the books, and it implies that at some point in Alabama's history, blindfolded driving was enough of a concern that general traffic laws weren't cutting it. They needed a law that specifically said, hey, you need to be able to see the road while operating a 2-ton vehicle at highway speeds. Alabama has now appeared 3 times on this list: fake mustaches in church, ice cream cones in back pockets, blindfolded driving. At this point, early Alabama sounds like it was absolute chaos, and honestly, I kind of respect it. From blindfolded driving to truly bizarre animal laws, we're heading into the final stretch. And the laws from here on out are the ones that made our team say, wait, seriously, starting with Ohio and a very intoxicated fish. Number 8, it's illegal to get a fish drunk in Ohio. In the state of Ohio, it is against the law to get a fish drunk. Not to go fishing while drunk, not to drink near a fish. To specifically intoxicate a fish with alcohol, this is a crime. The law actually has practical origins. Some fishermen discovered that pouring alcohol into small bodies of water would disorient fish, making them float to the surface and become incredibly easy to catch. It was unsportsmanlike and harmful to local ecosystems, so Ohio banned it. But stripped of its context, the law reads like the state of Ohio has taken a firm moral stance against fish alcoholism. No tiny fish-sized cocktails, no wine pairings while the fish is still swimming. Ohio's fish are going to stay sober, and that's final. The responsible version of this law makes perfect sense. Dumping chemicals into waterways is bad, but the way it reads on paper is pure gold. 7 more to go. And number 5 involves a law so oddly specific about where and how you can do something that you'll question everything about American legislative priorities. Number 7, it's illegal to collect rainwater in Colorado, with strict limits. This one sounds dystopian, but it's absolutely real. For most of Colorado's history, it was completely illegal for homeowners to collect rainwater that fell on their own property. Rain, falling from the sky, landing on your own roof, flowing into a barrel you placed there yourself, that was illegal. Colorado operates under the doctrine of prior appropriation, which means all water in the state, including rain, is legally allocated. Every drop belongs to someone with downstream water rights. When rain hits your roof and you catch it instead of letting it run into the ground and eventually into a stream, you're technically stealing water from whoever owns the rights downstream. Your rain barrel was an act of theft. It took until 2016 for Colorado to pass a law allowing residents to collect up to 110 gallons of rainwater using 2 small barrels. 2 barrels. That was considered a landmark legislative achievement. This isn't just a weird law, it actually affects people's lives, and it shows how deep water rights law goes in the American West. From water rights to bear fights, the next one is going to blow your mind. Because in one state, what I'm about to tell you was legal until shockingly recently. Number 6, it's illegal to wrestle a bear in Alabama. Alabama makes its final appearance on this list, and it's the wildest one yet. In Alabama, it is illegal to organize, participate in, or even attend a bear wrestling match. This law was passed in 2006. Not 1906, not 1806, 2006, 21st century. Smartphones existed, YouTube existed, and in Alabama people were still wrestling bears for entertainment. Bear wrestling was a real form of roadside entertainment in parts of the rural South for decades. Traveling shows would bring a muzzled, sometimes drugged bear and charge people money to get in a ring and try to pin it. The animals were often mistreated, declawed, and kept in terrible conditions. Alabama finally outlawed the practice in 2006, making it a criminal offense with potential fines and jail time. The fact that this needed a law in the 21st century is staggering. Someone in Alabama in 2005 was wrestling a bear and it was perfectly legal. Let that sink in. 5 more, and these are the cream of the crop, the absolute pinnacle of American legal absurdity. Number 5, it's illegal to lick a toad in Los Angeles. In Los Angeles, California, it is specifically illegal to lick a toad. And unlike most laws on this list, this one actually has a very clear and very real reason. The Colorado River toad, also known as the Sonoran desert toad, produces a venom containing a powerful psychoactive compound called 5-MeO-DMT. Licking the toad or extracting and smoking its secretions produces an intense hallucinogenic experience. In the 1980s and 1990s, toad licking became enough of a real phenomenon that it entered popular culture. News reports, TV show references, actual people actually licking actual toads to get high. Los Angeles passed a specific ordinance making it illegal to possess, lick, or ingest the secretions of specific toad species for the purpose of intoxication. So in Ohio, you can't get a fish drunk. In LA, you can't get yourself high from a toad. American law has taken a very firm stance on the intersection of substance abuse and wildlife. This one actually gets enforced occasionally, by the way. As recently as 2022, there were reports of toad licking making a comeback and authorities issuing fresh warnings. 4 more, and we're approaching the most unbelievable ones on the entire list. Number 2 is the one I've been teasing since the beginning, the one about something you probably did this morning. We're almost there. Number 4, it's illegal to fall asleep in a cheese factory in South Dakota. In South Dakota, it is technically illegal to fall asleep in a cheese factory, not a mattress factory, not an office building, a cheese factory specifically. The origins are almost certainly tied to workplace safety regulations. Cheese production involves heavy machinery, large vats of scalding liquid, and industrial processes that could seriously injure or kill someone who isn't alert. Falling asleep near operating equipment in any factory is dangerous. But instead of passing a broad workplace safety law covering all factories, South Dakota apparently decided that cheese factories specifically needed their own provision, which implies one of 2 things. Either the cheese factory sleeping epidemic was so severe it demanded targeted legislation, or the lawmakers of South Dakota had very specific concerns about the sedative properties of cheese production environments. Was it the warm temperature, the rhythmic sound of the churning, the soothing smell of aging cheddar? Something about South Dakota's cheese factories was putting people to sleep at an alarming rate, and the government said no more. 3 more, and the top 3 are the ones that genuinely defy all logic. Let's go. Number 3, it's illegal to carry a concealed weapon over 6 feet long in Kentucky. In Kentucky, it is specifically illegal to carry a concealed weapon that is longer than 6 feet. Let's unpack this. The law isn't about carrying weapons. Kentucky has plenty of provisions for that. It's about concealing a weapon that is over 6 feet in length. 6 feet, the height of an average adult man. The law says you cannot conceal a weapon of that size on your person. The question isn't why this law exists. The question is how. How would someone conceal a weapon longer than 6 feet? Where? In what? Under a very long trench coat, inside a comically oversized pair of pants. The law implies that at some point, someone in Kentucky either successfully concealed a 6-foot weapon or at least attempted to, and a legislator saw it happen and said, "We need to write this down." The physics alone make this incredible. A 6-foot sword hidden under a jacket. A 6-foot rifle stuffed down a pant leg. The logistics of concealing something that large on a human body are genuinely impressive, and the fact that Kentucky felt it needed its own law suggests someone somewhere managed it. 2 more, and number 2 is the one I promised you at the very beginning. Number 2, jaywalking laws still actively enforced across America. Here it is, the one I've been building to, something millions of Americans do every single day without thinking twice about it, and in many states it's genuinely illegal with real fines attached. Jaywalking. Crossing the street outside of a designated crosswalk or crossing against a signal is a finable offense in most American cities, and unlike many of the laws on this list, this one actually gets enforced regularly. Fines for jaywalking range from $20 to over $250 depending on the city and state. In Los Angeles, jaywalking tickets were so aggressively issued that they became a civil rights issue, with studies showing that citations were disproportionately given to people of color and low-income communities. Here's what makes this one so bizarre from a global perspective. In most European countries, jaywalking isn't even a concept. There's no law against it. Pedestrians cross streets using common sense and drivers adjust accordingly. The entire idea of making it illegal for a human being to cross a road on foot is a uniquely American invention. And the origin story is even wilder. The term jaywalker was essentially invented by the automobile industry in the 1920s. When cars first appeared in American cities, streets were shared spaces. Pedestrians walked wherever they wanted. The car industry needed people off the streets so cars could move freely, so they launched a massive propaganda campaign to shame pedestrians who walked in the road, coining the term jay, which at the time was slang for a foolish or unsophisticated person. They literally invented the concept of jaywalking to sell more cars. And 100 years later, Americans are still getting fined for it. California reformed its jaywalking laws in 2023, making it legal to cross outside a crosswalk if it's safe to do so. But dozens of other states still enforce the old rules. You crossed the street this morning, you may have committed a crime. One more, the number 1 weirdest law still existing in America, and this one is truly in a league of its own. Number 1, it's illegal to die in certain American towns. The number 1 spot on this list doesn't involve animals, food, weapons, or strange behavior. It involves the one thing that every single human being will eventually do. Dying. In certain small towns across the United States, it is technically against the law to die within city limits. The most well-known cases involve small communities that ran out of cemetery space. When a town's graveyard is full and there's no land available for expansion, local governments face a genuine logistical crisis. Where do you bury people? How do you handle funeral services? What do you do when the dead have nowhere to go? Some towns, faced with this exact problem, passed ordinances effectively prohibiting death within their municipal boundaries. The intent was bureaucratic. It was a pressure tactic to force cemetery expansion, redirect burial services to neighboring communities, or motivate land acquisitions. But on paper, in the actual legal code, the ordinance reads exactly like what it says. Dying within city limits is a violation of local law. The enforcement question is obviously the funniest part. You can't fine a dead person, you can't arrest someone for dying. The deceased is, by definition, unable to comply with any legal remedy, and yet the law exists. Think about that for a moment. You're in one of these towns, you're taking your last breaths, your family is gathered around, and in your final moments on this earth you are technically committing a municipal violation. Your last act as a citizen is breaking the law. American legislators have looked at every single aspect of human existence. They've regulated singing, eating, bathing, sleeping, sneezing, walking, swimming, and wrestling bears. They've written laws about donkeys, giraffes, fish, toads, and ice cream cones. And then they looked at death itself, the one universal human experience, and said, yeah, we need a law for that too. That is the #1 weirdest law still on the books in America, and honestly, it's kind of perfect. So there you have it, 20 laws that are technically still active somewhere in the United States right now. From singing off-key in North Carolina to eating fried chicken with a fork in Georgia. From the donkey in the bathtub law born from a real flood in 1924 to the bear wrestling ban that wasn't passed until 2006. From getting a fish drunk in Ohio to the towns where dying is literally against the law. Some of these laws were passed for reasons that actually made sense at the time. Horse theft was real, bear wrestling was real, toad licking was real, flash floods carrying donkeys in bathtubs, unfortunately also real. Others remain complete mysteries. Who was sleeping on refrigerators in Pennsylvania? Who was concealing 6-foot weapons in Kentucky? What happened in that South Dakota cheese factory? But they all share one thing in common. They're still there, still in the code, still technically enforceable. And they paint a picture of America that is endlessly weird, wonderfully specific, and absolutely unforgettable. All right, I need to hear from you. Drop a comment right now. Which law on this list shocked you the most? Was it the bear wrestling, the donkey in the bathtub, the fact that jaywalking was invented by the car industry, or was it #1, the law against dying? Let me know. And if your state showed up on this list, I'm sorry, or you're welcome, depends on how you look at it. If you enjoyed this video, smash that like button. It genuinely helps this channel grow. Subscribe if you haven't already and tap the notification bell so you don't miss the next one. We've got a lot more videos like this coming, and trust me, the research is already underway for a part 2. Share this with a friend who needs to know that getting a fish drunk is a crime in Ohio. They deserve to have that information. See you in the next one.